Okay, so there we go. All right, so when I click on this curly, line 12 is being highlighted, so this is the for loop. If I click on this curly, it highlights on line 13, so this is the whole function. Here's the for loop. So it's going to execute everything I'm highlighting for each string, each character in the string. Great. Oh, and I met with Shailene after class the other day because I had an idea that I'll show y'all guys. So the way you can think about a for loop, so this is a for loop right here, it's looping. So basically what it's doing this like a bunch of times. So it's like saying this would be A. The character is A on the first iteration. Oh no, it's H because it's the hello. So so the first iteration is H, and then it does all this stuff. And then the next iteration is E, and it checks, and it keeps on checking it. So character is H, so this is H, and that's H. So we can do this, that, and then that's the first iteration. Here's the second iteration, that, or kind of. Anyway, you get the point that here's the first iteration, here's the second iteration, and the third, and it keeps on going through each character here, and it executes this logic we put. So that's like the way you should think about it. What is it doing behind the scenes? And like I said, that's the whole point of the for loop. I could come up with a code that I check the first character and the second, and I can write each one. But a loop makes it so I just have to write the logic one time, and it will repeat it for me. Yeah. But cool. So, all right, we got the character if it's a vowel, because we have this condition. And so if it's a vowel, we want to take it out, return the new string. So, but before I jump to that, I see I'm going to capitalize the consonants. So I think I would do an else statement. If it's a vowel, it will go in here. And if not, the only other possible option would be a consonant. So in that case, I don't need an if else. So let's see if that works. So consonant is H. So when this shows the iteration, the first character is an H. So that's why this one console logged first. And then the E, it's a vowel, et cetera, it's working. Cool. So that's a good, so yeah, it's a good to, that's another skill to analyze the prompt, or if it's your final project, analyze what needs to happen and think what's like a good baseline. And a good baseline for this would be, I want to loop through the string and just console log if it's a vowel and console log if it's a character. There's always some version. There's always some baseline you can do. You know, yeah. A lot of times with functions, if I can go down, a lot of times with like in your final projects or other ones, if you have a button and you click and you have some kind of function attached to it, and let's say, you know, const const click button. Let's say it's a function, and I know when I click that button, I'm gonna save the profile, or I'm gonna whatever, something's gonna happen. It's gonna be a bunch of logic. But before I jump into that, often I'll just do this: console log button clicked, and that's a good baseline. Like, can I click this button on my HTML, and do I see this console log when I click that button? That's a great like starting point. So, and that takes time to find what is a starting point, but just always be curious of how can I put a simple thing. Anyway, great. So console logs are good. So now we're going to go to the next phase where I'm not going to console log, but for the vowels, I'm going to, it looks like I need a new string. Take out all the vowels. So in the new string, I won't have any vowels. So do we know how to push things in the array? We feel good about that? So
is that when it takes out from the end?
Well, push is when you add something.
Okay. And it's adding it to the end?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Or yes, I believe that's right. Mm-hmm. And I'll start with this just because I think it's more common in your exercises. We're going to do a string, but I just want to start with this. So I could say every time I have a vowel, we want to take it out. So I won't do anything. It's like I would just say console log it, because I'm going to return this new one. So so let me organize myself here. So I'm going to click on this curly. It's highlighting down in line 20. So this is a function. Let me click on this. It's highlighting on line 17. So this is a for loop. So I want to go outside the for loop right here. I'm still inside the function. Okay. So I'm going to say return new array, because it says I have to return a new string. And I'm going to get to that, but I want to show this way first. So if I get a vowel, it wants me to take it out. So I'm just going to console log it. You know, I'm going to keep it simple for now. We'll make it more clean later. All right. But if it's a consonant, which would be in this one, I would say new array dot push character. So that's how it works. If you put the name of the array, which is this one, and dot push, and whatever you put in parentheses is going to add it to this array, technically at the end. But if it's empty, it just goes in order. Cool. So I'm hoping that in this array, it will only be the consonants of this string down here. So instead of returning it right away, I'm going to console log it to see if it worked. New array. I'm going to label this new array. I'm going to comment out this thing for now because I don't want to get overwhelmed in the console. Run this. All right, so I have an array, and it has only the consonants. Cool. I saw the AI thing gave. Well, what's up?
No, I just said. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's when the character gets into this thing, it pushes it in that array.
Would you need a new variable for one of those?
One of what thing?
In that if and else, would you need a different variable for one of them because they both are using character, right?
No, you wouldn't. I mean, for the scenario, I mean, it says it will take out the vowels. So I'm just interpreting.
Oh, so you don't even. Got you. So you don't even need that first part, is what you're saying, in that if then.
Yeah, kinda. I was gonna get to that in a moment.
Got you.
I'm gonna keep it like this for simplicity, and then I'm gonna address what you're talking about at the end.
Got you.
No, it's all good. Good catch. All right, so yeah, I saw that AI gave a little hint of something we could do with all this. I'm trying to think which one I want to show you guys. I'll show you both maybe. So you could ask how to, because maybe you guys might be more familiar with this push thing because it's in a lot of the exercises of 4Geeks. And so you might start with this maybe. And then you could say, how to put items in array as a string or something, and join method comes out. And that's the thing the AI showed. So here's an example array. So here's an example here. So let's, okay. So this is an array right here. Different items separated by commas are all strings. And then this is just a label. It's a console log, it's a label. Let me get rid of that so we don't get overwhelmed. Okay. So it put all these things together. Welcome geeks for geeks. We put the name of the array, a dot, join, by parentheses. And then I think the middle is like you can put a separator if you wanted. Like if I put a space, it'll put a space in between each one. Yeah. You could put a dash if you wanted. I'll put dash in between each one. Cool, so join. So I could say, I can test that out in the console log. New array dot join parentheses, and then I wonder what happens if I just leave an empty parentheses when I run it. It's a string. Oh, it separates by commas by default. So if I put an empty string in there, I guess it does, it combines it all together. Okay. Cool. So we have a string that it took out all the vowels, so that's good. So I can put an A in here, and I hope it doesn't show up there. Run it. Yeah, the A is still not in there. Cool. And now we want to capitalize the consonants. And I know the consonants are in this else statement. So this variable represents a character. So I can look up in Google how to capitalize. Well, I can't spell. Is that capitalize a string in JavaScript to uppercase. So the string, and you put dot to uppercase. Okay, so I would copy that, or maybe all of this, I guess. And then here's where my consonants live. So instead of my string, my variable is a character. So I'm gonna say, that's another skill when you Google something. Okay, here's a thing that works, but how does that apply to my situation? You think, okay, this is a string, and they put the variable and then my string. So I have to think, okay, what is my version of that? And then, the character, which is an individual letter. I'm gonna change this to character. Character to uppercase. And I might create a variable to keep my stuff clean and organized, like const upper character. Something like that, I don't know. And then instead of pushing the character as it is, I would push this converted one in here. So I'm going to convert the thing we're iterating to an uppercase if it's in consonant, because this is the consonant thing. Yeah, and so let's look at it now. Lur caps. Any questions?
No.
That's it, right?
Interesting. Yeah, capitalize the consonants. I guess just curious to what you do with the commented out area.
Yeah, so my thought about that is to take this and get rid of that. And then is vowel is saying, here are my consonants. I mean, sorry, my vowels. So if the character we're iterating over is included in here, then it will respond true.
Added, so equals false.
Yeah. So if it's false and the short, so let me do it like this. So equals false. So if this statement is false, if we get a letter, so we can think, okay, the first iteration is a H. So I'll substitute this as being H, just to wrap my head around this. So it's H, and then we'll say H right here. So is H included in this array up here? That is false. It is not included, which is what I want because I want the consonants. So H is not included. That's a false statement right there. So if it's false, this condition is saved in this variable.
Mm-hmm.
So basically H is included in this. That's false. So you can think in your mind that this becomes false basically. So then it says is val is false? Yeah, it's false right now. So then it would go inside of these curly brackets and it would take the character and do the logic. So
Got it. Okay.
that's what you have to mentally, or what I'm doing right here, but mentally be able to visualize what happens with this variable. I wrote false, but eventually you should just your brain should just compute that, I guess, or something. Yeah. So let's see if that works. It should work. Yeah, same thing. Cool. And then the shorthand for that would be like this. You could do that. Oh, what the? If you put an exclamation point,
Yeah.
it's like the shorthand for that, so it would still work. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it's interesting just seeing everything that I guess we've learned so far, give or take, kind of use into solving this, right? You got the functions, the arrays, the for loops, the Boolean, and just figuring out how to put it together to solve something like this. It's interesting.
Right.
And the push method. Yeah.
The name of the game, yeah. And that could be good if there's an input and someone says, "Oh, type your name," and they put something like that. If they're being lazy, you can convert those letters so that way when they log in, you can say, "Hello, Brandon," like that.
Is that similar to how things like spell check and things work? Our iPhones, how it will kind of autocorrect?
I don't know. I have a feeling not. I feel like nowadays, maybe under the hood, perhaps. I wonder. But I feel like the code used, I think it's probably happening under the hood somewhere. But what the developers actually write is probably simpler or something. It's just built-in stuff that
Got it. But yeah, I get the idea.
I think. Yeah, Shailene.
I have a problem from the practice exercise that I don't really understand. It's called divide and conquer.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you can send it to me.
I'll send you the instructions because all it has is 4 and 5 instructions and then the array.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
So go ahead and send me that. We have an hour left. Anybody? I don't know. Carlos is around. Could have a breakout
Yes, I am.
room. So yeah, there could be a breakout room if somebody wants to. I don't know, get some individual feedback or something like that. Just let us know. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at this one. How is this going, guys? Is this helpful? Do we like this format? Would we like to do this? I typed in with Lauda the other day, and she said I can do 2 or 3 kind of catch-up days or take a detour from the curriculum. So maybe I'll do a little Google form. You guys can let me know how we like this format. Any thoughts though? Would you like to do something like this every now and then, or?
Yeah, something like to refresh your memory.
I do like this, especially because it's like a lot. So you breaking it down, like I really like it.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Good to know. Glad. All right, so let's check this out. List of numbers. I'm assuming I'm going to use that. Create a function called merge to list that expects an array of numbers. That's a data type, integers. Loop through the array and separate the odd and even numbers in different arrays. If the number is odd, push it to a placeholder array named odd. If the number is even, push it to placeholder array named even. The function should return a new array that contains both odd in that order. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I started like the first half, and then I don't know.
Okay, nice. Cool. So create a function called merge to list. I'm gonna do my arrow function because that's what I do.
So it could be any kind of function.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a function is a function. There's an arrow function that uses different syntax, and then there's like a, I don't know what you call that, traditional function. Const function merge to list parentheses, something like that, I think. So this is different syntax, and arrow function has certain things you can do differently, but I'm just used to doing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, merge to list that expects an array of numbers. So if that means it's a parameter, so I'm gonna say array. Oh, and this is like last time, like Brandon understandably got a little confused. So I'm gonna get rid of that. And then I'm gonna say merge to lists parentheses and paste in that thing. So I'm calling the function, and then I'm passing this array in it, and it gets to that. When I do, like, I don't know if you guys heard of LeetCode, it's like really challenging JavaScript stuff.
I've heard of it. Leap, right?
LeetCode, yeah, LEET. And they say, oh, you might get interviewed with things like this. And I guess that's debatable. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, often when I do it, I'll like start off just console logging. They'll often have like a parameter, and I'll just like console log it just to like ground myself. Like, okay, first things first, what is this thing? And if I'm calling this, I want to make sure I know what I'm doing. Like, okay, I'm putting an array inside of this, and it's passing to that. At least that's what I'm thinking. Let me make sure.
So I have a question. Where you put console log array, you put the semicolon inside the position?
The inside the quotes. And that's just what I do. Oh, a comma. And I gotta put a comma. And that's just so it looks like this in the console.
Oh, okay.
It's just a label. So I can be like, you know, Madia, and this is like that. This is a way for me to find it in the console. It's really just a habit of mine, kind of. And I think I told you guys before that sometimes when you're doing like a website, and especially if it gets more complex, there can be like a bunch of stuff in the console, and like little weird error messages that have nothing to do with what you even wrote. So you can catch yourself going up and down the console trying to find what you did, and that is a little lovable. Yeah, but cool. So I see that this word array represents this thing right here, and that's because I passed it in right there. All right, can confirm that. So now, next step. Loop through the array and separate the odd and even numbers in different arrays. Great. So we I can loop through the array, so I'm gonna use a for each array dot for each, and I start with parentheses, and then I need a function inside of that, so I'm gonna hit enter, and then I'm gonna hit tab so I know where I'm at, and I'm gonna put a parenthesis. I'm gonna do an arrow function, which would be parentheses, arrow, and then curlies. Okay. And then you need to put a parameter to represent the individual item. In this case, it's numbers. So I'm going to do num, exactly. That's what I was going to do. But you can name it whatever you want. You could say number. I'm just going to be rebellious against Shailene and say number because you said
okay.
So I'm gonna console log number, and I'm gonna put a label just because that's what I do. Num, whatever. Okay, so let's run it. Okay, cool. So I confirm that's working. I'm looping through each thing. The word number in this scope right here represents the individual number. Cool. All right. So loop through it and separate the odd and even numbers in different arrays. So I would, and typically if I want to like, hola niño, ¿cómo está nini? Bueno saberlo.
¿Tiene agua?
Sí, yo tengo agua.
¿En vaso?
Sí.
¿Y con leche?
No es leche, es agua. Oh, tú estás tomando leche. All right. So typically, if I know I want to like loop through something and I'm going to save it somewhere else, I usually want to name that variable outside of the for loop. Whether it's a for each or a traditional for or whatever, because remember, whatever you put inside of this thing, it's going to do it over and over. So you have to remember that. So I'm going to...
I have a question. So you wouldn't put an empty array of odd numbers first to like identify it or anything? You would just loop first?
I would, yeah. But I'm speaking where to make that, because technically I could go here inside of the for each stuff, and I could make a like let or const even array and do like that. And I was just making a point that I wouldn't do it inside of here because one, this is okay. So there's this idea of scope. So I think if I try to, let me just try something. So if I say even array push number, so I'm taking this array, even array, and I'm pushing each number inside of it. And then here's the arrow function inside of the for each. Here's the parenthesis. This is the for each right here. So if I go outside of that and I say return even array, I'm curious what's going to happen. Yeah. It says even array is not defined. And that's because this idea of like scope. So even array is a variable that only exists inside of this arrow function thing.
Okay.
And so that's one thing. We usually want to have access to it otherwise. And then like if I return it inside of here, I think it's gonna go crazy. Let's see. Didn't even do anything. But if we console logged it just to represent it, see it's pushing the first iteration inside of it's pushing the first number inside the array, and then we get only that. And then it's like each item gets its own little loop universe or something. So yeah. So if I instead put it outside of the for loop, this is global in the of this function. Here's a function right here. So if I put the even array right here, anything inside the function can access it. So now if I console log it, here's a for each. So this is the console log is outside of for each. This is global. So if I do it now, so for each number, we're adding it to the array, filling up the basket.
Mhm.
Let me clear it first and run it. So now I can see the array with all of them inside of it. So yeah. So that's why I want to initialize my array over here. Is that what you're asking about, Shailene?
Yeah. I mean, you already put it because you put const even array empty array.
Okay, yeah.
I was asking, do we have to put it? But yeah.
Right. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, that's the lesson there. If I'm looping through something and saving it in a variable, typically variables outside of the loop. So yeah, take note of that. But cool. So this is an even array, and I need an odd array. Odd array. Separate the odd and even numbers in different arrays. So then we got to know how to know if it's even or odd. Do we know that one yet? Do any of those exercises?
I think you need to divide it by 2, and if it's 0, it's even. If not, if it's 0, it's even. Yeah, if it is not 0, is odd. Right? It's something like that.
The modulus operator?
Right. So it's like some version of what you're saying, Israel.
It's the remainder, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm instead of going to Google, I'm just gonna steal Drew's message.
I have a quick question, Alex. For the even and odd array, shouldn't they be let if you're gonna be pushing into them later?
That's
good question. No. So the const versus let is when you how do you say that? If you do like even array equals, like if I change it like that way, even array equals.
Yeah, like
that's when const will like throw an error because I'm trying to what's that word?
Like specify it.
No,
you're giving an exact value. Too.
Yeah. There's a specific word.
I was just wondering because since like in the instructions it's saying we're gonna be pushing, I thought pushing would be
Yeah,
modified.
that's a good thought.
Does
You
that
know,
make sense?
it seemed like it should be let because you're changing it. Yeah. But no, it's more about damn, what was the word I'm thinking about, Carlos? Help me out here.
What's up?
I don't know, some kind of word for this line 4 when you change the value in this specific way. I don't remember, but anyway.
Like rearrange?
No.
I know what you mean though.
Yeah. Anyway, when you try to change it in this way, you're overriding it with the equal sign.
Yeah.
That's when const and let comes into play. Cool. And so yeah, I copied the thing that Drew put. Something like that, right? So this is like a remainder thing. It's like if you, let's look it up. How to know if number is odd or even in JavaScript. So you take the number, you do the what was it called, Christian? Tremolo?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Modulus.
Modulus, okay.
Yeah.
You get the modulus too. So it's like if you do, 10 divided by 5, it equals 2. There's no remainder, meaning it's not 2.5 or 2.25 or nothing like that. It's just 2, the whole number. So the remainder, this gives you the remainder when you divide it by 2. The remainder will be 0, meaning there's no decimals after. So that proves to you it's divisible by 2, which tells you it's even. So if you can do 3. Let's like start console logging this. So let me just get rid of this really quick. Or I could do that. So I will go into here. So for each number, we're going to say console. What? Wait, what the heck? Did it just like solve it for me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So console log number and modulus, I think he said 2. So even? Question mark? No, I wanted to, I don't want, I will do that eventually, but first I want to get rid of all this and that. Okay. So instead of number, I'll say, so 10. So I could say, let's do 10 divided by 2. Wait, is that how you do it? Yeah. And then comma. Okay, so 10 divided by 2 is equal to 5. There's no remainders. But if I do 3, what? Oh, whoops, I supposed to change this to 3 too. What to say? So there's a remainder of 1. Is that because it's the same? I don't quite know why this would be 1 or something else. But if there is some kind of decimal, the remainder thing will be something. But if we change this to 9, 9 divided by 3 is 3. I gotta change this to 9 too. It's 0 because there's no decimals. So yeah. So yeah, that's how you can know if something is evenly dividing into something. So yeah, console log, remember, is a good way to test things out. And then after, you have to remember, okay, now I know that this code right here inside the console log is the logic I need to know if it's even. So we can like take it out of there, Control X. And now I can say, we'll get to there. If the number we're iterating over is even by 2, let me test out. I think you don't need the curlies. I can say even array push number. If it's divisible by 2, then I'm going to take that number and I'm going to push it inside of the even array. And then I can say else odd array push number, because the only other possible thing is that it's not even. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So now I want to make sure that worked. So I'm a console log even array, and I'm gonna say even, and then I'm gonna do the same thing for the odd. Clear the console, run it. 59 isn't even. Wait, did I?
Yeah, it like switched them.
Yeah. Oh, the condition I wrote is if it's true. I'm just saying, like, I didn't really make a complete condition. I just said,
I think you're supposed to add is equal to 0.
Exactly, yeah. If it's 0 is the key. Yeah, all right. There we go. Because the remainder has to equal 0, meaning there's no decimals, which proves that it's even. So that looks good. Nice. All right, so that's working. Okay. So if the number is odd, push it into the array named odd, even, and then the function should return a new array that contains both odd and even. So first odd and then even elements in that order. So now, yeah, that. So now maybe I'll create a variable called new. New, but
this was also part of it.
Remember, the odd array comes first, and you have to append them. Even array. Remember, the odd array comes first, and you have to append even array using the concat method. We could use a concat method, but I want to show you guys this. I think this other way would work too. So I'll call this result, maybe, and we can use a spread operator thing. So
the 3 dots.
Yeah. So let's do it this way first. So I could say odd array, even array. because it says it should return a new array that contains both the odd and even elements in that order. First odd, first even. I know this stuff is working. And let's look at that. All right, so it's the odd stuff, and then this is the even stuff. But you can tell it's like there's an array and another array inside a big array. So one way to deal with that is this spread operator. You put 3 dots, and what that does, it just removes the it removes the square brackets basically, and it like separates each of them independently. Yeah. So odd, and this is all even, and it's one array. Yeah. So you do that. And I think that's everything. Yeah, spread operator. I don't know off the top of my head how the concat thing would work, but I think this is nice. It's the syntax isn't too complex. Any questions around that?
It makes sense. I guess I will have to keep practicing it for sure.
Yeah.
Because all these methods in between is like chaotic.
Oh, you want to ask a follow-up question about any part of it?
Not at the moment, no.
Gotcha. Just repetition and yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anybody else?
I got a quick question about the how is that called? The iterate literal. You know, when you open the curly brackets 18 and you use the bad states.
Okay.
I kind of confused when you use that.
And the dollar sign.
Exactly that stuff.
Okay. Are you working on something with that, or?
Oh no, I just remember that. I was working with Carlos yesterday on the project, and I finished that, but I'm confused when can I use that with arrays, with objects, or you know.
Okay, sure, yeah. Yeah, I can start with that. Anybody have any questions about this before we jump into that? Any part of this code? All right. Okay, cool. So, yeah, thanks for that, Shailene. That was a good one. All right. So, with the thing you're talking about, Israel, what's it called? Template.
Literal.
Template literals.
Template literals. Okay.
Yeah.
So first name Alex, const, last name. Sure, let's do that. Interesting last name. So you could do this concatenation. You get the variable, you add a space, and then you add the last variable, and then you get the full name, and it goes like that. And so an alternative to that would be backticks, and so basically what this allows you to do is it allows you to make a string. Like JavaScript will recognize this as a string, just like this thing right here. But you can make it dynamic would be the word. Like the string will change depending on what happens. So you can say hello because this is a string of sorts, you know, it's kind of a string. So you can put letters in there and it will show it. It says hello, just like any string would. But then you can also add variables. So you could do like that. You do the $sign and curly brackets, and then whatever you put in there could be a variable. And then it's cool because then you don't have to do like plus empty string. You just put a space, and it'll just put the space for you. Hello. So if I go like this, it'll go even bigger space because I did it like that.
So you couldn't use that in the exercise before?
I
was thinking about that. I don't know if that's something that you can do with the bad states. I don't know.
Like for here maybe.
Yeah, so it should look like a string without the the thing that for the arrays. How's that called?
I wouldn't, mostly because they want you to return a new array, not a string.
But so, you could do it, right? I mean, that's not the.
You can use it. Well, let me keep going with what I was doing to just talk about the different things about it, and so you can be the one to make the decision. If it's relevant or not. Blah, 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 and then we did this. Hello. Yeah. So one thing that's interesting about this, so this is valuable because this is a variable. A variable can change. So I can change this to Brad or something, and now it says Brad. And then if this says Tony, it changes to Tony. So this string changes, and so variables that can be connected to a user input. The person types their name and it updates the variable because of JavaScript, and now you have this string that can change like that. So that's cool. And then another thing that it took me a while to realize is that this is technically JavaScript. I can do JavaScript in here. So I could say like put a variable age equals 30. Hello, you are years old, and that would show up 30 years old. But you can even do like plus 5 or something, and then that would still show up 35, which is JavaScript. And then like examples that come to the top of my mind, I wouldn't want to do because it's concepts you haven't gotten over yet necessarily, but it can be like condition stuff. So like maybe we can do this. Let me see. Const you're old. A function determine if you're old or not. And let's say it's expecting an age, and then you can say if age is greater than 30, sure. If age is greater than 30, you're old. I guess I'm old. And then else you're young. And so here, I don't know, I think this should work. So if I do you're old and I pass the age, well, let me change this. So age var or value, let's say, and this is age value. I'm gonna call this age param. This is another good thing too. If you make more specific variable names, so you know what's going on. Okay, cool. So I made a function to calculate if you're old. It expects a parameter of the age, and then it calculates if the age that we received when we called the function, right, is greater than 30, you're old, and if not, you're young. So we call the function down here, and we're passing it the age value from here. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Age value. So getting the age value from line 3, calling the function, it gets passed to here. Blah, 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 blah. And this is going to return a string, old or young. I hope this works because that was a lot of time. Yeah. Hello, Tony. You are young. And I can put a exclamation point. What the hell? I can't put it. Oh, because I'm in the JavaScript thing. That's cool. So yeah, I'm inside the curly brackets of the $, which is JavaScript. So in JavaScript, it's like if something doesn't have a quote, it's going to look for a variable. So right now, it's like looking for a variable called exclamation point. So I got to go outside of that. Now I'm in the backtick land, which is like a string. It's like a weird steroid string. So I can put characters like a normal string. You are young. And now let's make him old. 90. You are old. And we could update this maybe. Say else if h param is greater than, so if it's greater than 30 and it's less than 60, yeah, you're old. But if it's greater than 60, you're
super old.
Yeah, really old. Else you're young. You're really old because he's 90. If he's 55, he's just old. Anyway, so yeah, this is all JavaScript. So these things, most commonly, it's usually just a variable, but technically you could use it for like JavaScript things. Yeah, and so like one reason that really comes into use is because if you have a div as an ID, let's call it test, and before I jump, I guess any questions about that?
Just to add something, you can also call multiple elements in, for example, when you have variable, but you have multiple elements, so you can call them also inside the backticks. For example, let's say that aside of the first name and the last name, you have the titles. So for example, you can create another string that, for example, says titles, like const titles equals, and then you put multiple elements inside, like Mr., Mrs., Miss, and Miss. And then when you use the backticks, whenever you're calling those with the $, then you can put square brackets and it will call the elements right there. Now, if you want to make them loop, that's a different story, but yes, it will require a little bit more of work, but you can also do that with these kind of functions. They're super cool.
Yeah, totally.
It's advanced.
All right, so I was gonna get rid of this. Any questions before I?
Nope.
Don't feel like you need to be able to do this on your own right away. But might come up in your final project perhaps. But okay, cool. So when that's really useful is So let's say we have this. So hello, it's a div that says hello. So we talked about this earlier on. So we can select something. So with CSS, I would say ID test. That's selecting it because it's an ID. ID test, boom. Background color, background, whatever. It looks like that's a red. Cool. So I can similarly select it with JavaScript. So I can say document dot get element, or query selector is a selector, and in here I can put a hashtag just like I do with CSS and put test because that's the name of the ID. So I just selected it with JavaScript. And now I have different functions I can do. And one of them is called inner HTML. And I can say, hello, world. I can run it, and it replaces what's inside of it. So inner HTML wants to receive a string. So you can change this to backticks, and it still will recognize it as a string. It still works. So if we do like, I'm not going to do that. It's going to take too long, and I don't want to waste time on that. But let's say we have a, const name equals Camille. Then we could do something like name like that. So it's a backtick, and I put the variable name right there from here, and I'll say hello world Camille. And so you could have a button or an input when they type their name and they hit submit, it changes this variable, which will change the string. That's like a more common use of those backticks. Yeah. But yeah.
Oh, you mean when you have inputs, correct?
Yeah, if you had inputs and you did an add event listener or something.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's also another use.
That'll be good for that. Yeah. But anyway, so that's a long answer to your question, Israel. But that's the way backticks work, basically.
Yeah, thank you. That was pretty useful.
Perfect. Cool, guys. So, any other last minute questions? All right. So, great. That was fun. That was a good kind of break from the curriculum. So, coming up, we have some code review stuff, I believe, like thinking about how to write clean code and project revisions. Yeah. So we'll kind of talk about how to improve. I went over a little bit of it when I created variables. Like if you have a condition with a bunch of logic, put that in a variable and then put it in the if statement. So it's not like all there. Think about how you indent things and the way you name your function, etc. So that's kind of stuff we'll be working on. So by Friday, it'd be great if we finish up any projects, revisit some JavaScript stuff. You have mastering JavaScript.
So the domain project should be done by this Friday.
The main project, like what, the domain name generator?
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, why not? I mean, I would strive for that. It's not going to get like rejected of no point of return. You know, you can with all these projects, you can submit them after you're done. But you know, it's good to push yourself and aim for it. Oh, and I met with Lauda. She said something about like ChatGPT. Like, I guess they have a way to detect if you use ChatGPT, and you won't be able to like turn in a project with it. So just keep that in mind. And I already gave you guys my spiel about ChatGPT anyway, and for your own good anyway. But yeah, you like as we said before, you could definitely use it a bit to ask questions and help you as a tool learning guide, but don't like copy and paste the code and whatever. But yeah, so if you haven't finished already, try to finish it. And if you already finished, you know, this mastering JavaScript thing, it's a lot of challenging stuff in there that will give you a good run for your money. Yeah, this project is pretty easy. I'm not the hugest fan of it. Good for you guys, I guess. Sort of. I don't know.
It's pretty similar to the domain name generator, but in this case, it's because you will have to use HTML and also like to get familiarized with other concepts, like more chained to the front end, like SVGs, and also how to work with images, sizes, paddings, and all that. I think it's fun in that sense, but yes, it's pretty much the same as the domain name generator. It's kind of the same logic.
This is like the actual code y'all need to do to finish it. You could technically finish it in like, I don't know, whatever. But I'm excited for you guys in this module to do the mastering JavaScript practicing. If you finish your project already, I would definitely say start messing around with the mastering JavaScript. Because JavaScript can be pretty weird and funky, so it's good to start grinding that out now. Talk about the DOM. But yeah, guys, so keep on JavaScripting it up and getting resources. And yeah, so I would love by next class, domain name generator is done. And maybe even people starting mastering JavaScript, or go back and redo the loops again if you still want it to like stick and hasn't quite stuck yet. But cool, guys. We can end class there, and thank you all for your time, and I'll see you all Friday.
Good night, guys.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Night.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right.